Lotus Field combo has been one of the most powerful strategies in Pioneer since the format's inception. Back during the first round of Players Tour, it utilized the eventually banned powerful Underworld Breach. Since then, the deck went through countless changes, but still it is recognized as one of the best decks in Pioneer. Today, I will help you become a better player of the deck. Let's start by briefly going over the contents of the deck list. The eponymous Lotus Field is a centerpiece of this deck. While it does ask you to sacrifice 2 lands as it enters the battlefield, what you get in return is a land that taps for a total of 3 mana, meaning it scales very well with anything that untaps your lands, such as Hidden Strings and Pour Over the Pages. 2 fields with some untap effects will make it trivial to produce significant amounts of mana, so the full setup involves copying field with a Thespian stage. Impulse, Shimmer of Possibility, and Sylvan's Crying will help you make sure that you can find those lands early. Arboreal Grazer speeds up the deck, while Poseju and Otawara allow us to pre-roll a little bit extra interaction that we can search up with Sylvan's Crying. Hidden Strings, Pour Over the Pages, and Vizier of Tumbling Suns let us produce extra mana while digging through our deck. Everything to the right of those is a part of the Emergent Ultimatum combo kill, which we'll explain in a second. You will spend the early turns of the game trying to assemble double Lotus Field. The early turns are frequently pretty scripted. You'd like to play a Lotus Field on turn 3, ideally copy it on turn 4 with a Thespian stage, and then go off on the 5th turn of the game. Remember, when maneuvering through early turns and using Sylvan's Crying and your impulse effects to find your lands, sequence your impulses before casting your Sylvan's Cryings. That way, impulse can find either one of the lands you're lacking, while Sylvan's Crying will complete the combo with the remaining land. There are multiple ways to speed up our almost guaranteed turn 5 combo. An obvious way is to simply play an Arboreal Grazer during the first 2 turns of the game. Another, less obvious way to speed up the combo is using Vizier of Tumbling Suns once you have Lotus Field out. Since it costs 2 mana to untap your Lotus Field, you net 1 extra mana. If you do that the turn after you have deployed your Lotus Field, you will have just enough mana to copy your field with a Thespian stage and then kick things off with a Hidden Strings on both of your now Lotus Fields. Alright, we've got 2 copies of Lotus Field in play, but what do we do from here? Once we've got that, Pour Over the Pages becomes a really powerful way to churn through our deck. The most common way to eventually win is to cast an Emergent Ultimatum. Note that you will need 2 Lotus Fields in play and an untap effect, given the Ultimatum's awkward cost. Emergent Ultimatum with a single blue mana floating in your mana pool or a single blue land on top is going to be a guaranteed win, barring interaction from your opponent. In this situation, you will search for Omniscience, Behold the Beyond, and Dark Petition. The end state that you want to reach is getting an Omniscience into play and Behold the Beyond onto the stack. Once you do that, your Behold the Beyond will search for a Mastermind's Acquisition, a Balagod Recovery or Dark Petition, and literally any other card. Then you will use Mastermind's Acquisition to grab an Approach of the Second Sun from your sideboard, cast it from your hand for free with Omniscience, and use Balagod Recovery to recover a Dark Petition or just cast a Dark Petition from your hand to search up said Approach once again and win by casting it for the second time. With the ultimatum pile of Omniscience, Behold the Beyond, and Dark Petition, your opponent has no good choice as to what to put back into your deck. If they put back Omniscience, you can search up for a total of 4 cards from your deck. That's going to be a Balaged Recovery, 2 Hidden Strings, and the Omniscience that got shuffled back into your deck. Petition gives you 3 black mana thanks to Spell Mastery. Each Hidden Strings with 2 Lotus Fields out is going to net +4 mana, leaving you with enough mana to cast Omniscience, Balaged Recovery back your Behold the Beyond, and proceed to go for the Approach from there. If they put back either tutor, you're either left with Omniscience plus Behold the Beyond, which you want, or Omniscience with Dark Petition, which searches for Behold the Beyond. If any of the pile components are in your hand or in your graveyard, don't worry. You can substitute them with Pour Over the Pages or Hidden Strings for more mana, or Leer, Disciple of the Drowned, or Balaged Recovery to recur them. For example, an Ultimatum for Omniscience, 4 and Strings will effectively net you 5 extra mana so that you can cast your card. The true way to win in the end is to resolve Approach of the Second Sun twice, and how you get there doesn't really matter. Sometimes you should look for single Lotus Field lines. You might, for example, not have enough time to copy your field or fail to draw a stage entirely. If you only control a single Lotus Field, you will need more resources to combo off than just the ultimatum. For example, a Lotus Field, a colored land, and 2 hidden strings will let you cast an ultimatum. You have to be careful with how you tap your lands, remembering that in the end you need to produce 2 black, 3 green, 2 blue. In those spots, Omniscience, Leer, and Dark Petition will guarantee you an Omniscience in play barring interaction. Petition will search for another hidden strings and produce 3 black mana. With Leer, you'll be able to cast and recast strings a total of 4 times, each time netting 2 mana, getting you up to 12. Remember that we had 2 extra strings in the graveyard, which you needed anyways to go off of a single field most likely. Make sure to flashback your Dark Petition while you still have spell mastery, or otherwise you will not gain the mana. From this point on, your Dark Petition will search up an Omniscience, you'll play it, and you will need another card in hand to kickstart the combo. Be that another ultimatum, another tutor effect, or maybe pour over the pages. If you cast ultimatum with just 1 Lotus Field and no extra gas in hand, you should incorporate pour over the pages instead of Omniscience into your pile. If you end up given pour and petition, you can petition for Leer, Casher, and improvise from there. Remember that ultimatum lets you stack the spells you are casting the way you want to. If you get Behold the Beyond and Dark Petition, stack petition last so that you don't discard your petition card with Behold the Beyond's effect. If in some other situations you need another spell to enable Dark Petition's spell mastery requirement, remember to put it on the bottom of the stack. If you get an Omniscience, also remember to resolve it last. That way the stack will be empty and you'll be able to play a single spell for free before opponent gets a chance to interact with your Omniscience. And once again, be mindful that ultimatum's cost is very specific. Keep track of the colors of mana floating and plan in advance. For example, if you control just a Lotus Field and a Boseiju, you can use 2 hidden strings to cast an Emergent Ultimatum, but you need to be tapping your lands carefully. First, you need to tap your Lotus Field for blue mana, tap your Boseiju for green mana. Spend the 2 blue from your Lotus Field to untap both of your lands. Tap Boseiju again and tap Lotus Field for black mana. Spend the 1 remaining blue floating and 1 of your black mana to untap both of your lands again. Afterwards, you can tap your Lotus Field for blue mana and your Boseiju for a 3rd green mana. That will leave you with ultimatum mana in your mana pool with 1 blue mana to spare. Alright, so this decklist on the screen is going to be the one I am basing my sideboard recommendations on. The core of this deck is pretty tight, but minimal adjustments could be done. For example, Shimmer of Possibilities, the 23rd land in Blast Zone, or maybe even a 2nd Dark Petition or 4th copy of Pour Over the Pages are what I would call flex slots, and if you need space for some tech cards, you can find it there. Let's go over the few most popular matchups in Pioneer. We are going to discuss our sideboard strategies and I will point you towards what to look for, what is important and how you should play them. Mono Green Devotion is a bad matchup. Karn, the Great Creator, guarantees them easy access to Dumping Sphere. Dumping Sphere is one of the most powerful hate cards against Lotus Field, turning it into a measly colorless land. Thanks to Boseiju, we are not helpless against it, but Mono Green backs up their Dumping Sphere with a 2nd problematic artifact the turn after Karn comes down. They can Pithing Needle your Boseiju, Stone Brain your Mastermind's Acquisition, or drop a God Pharaoh statue. Almost all games will end with either you comboing off quicker or losing to Karn, since Mono Green is a fast deck with a good ability to access and find Karn early. The Stone Brain's presence might look like it incentivizes playing a single Play of Wishes, a 2nd way to access your sideboard, guaranteeing that you aren't just stone cold dead to a single activation. While there is some validity here, in practice, Stone Brain will frequently come after a Dumping Sphere, and the Mono Green player might decide to just name hidden strings if they suspect you play Fae, making it really hard to win those games anyways. Since Fae is very bad to draw in most games, I prefer to try to raise Karn game 1. If you are afraid of Stone Brain hitting your Mastermind's Acquisition after sideboarding, you can try to level your opponent and bring Approach of the Second Sun into your deck, but it's going to be really bad to draw. Out of the sideboard, Pithing Needle is an an important piece that lets you turn off their Karn. With Karn needled, you should be able to win before succumbing to their creatures. Hope Tender, or alternatively in some other decklist, Baral, can serve as a way to speed up your kill more meaningfully than Arboreal Grazers. While Grazers speed you up, they aren't strong blockers, and you still need to find your Lotus Fields and your combo pieces, so you cannot commit all your cards to just being fast. Rakdos Midrange is a close matchup. Here, you will mostly have to fight through hand disruption in form of Thoughtseize and Shouldered. You can't take too long, as the fastest Rakdos hands will threaten lethal damage by turn 5. To fight hand disruption, you are looking to have more strong top decks in your deck. In your opening hand, you should prioritize ways to assemble double Lotus Field. Once you're there, your odds to draw out of a precarious situation are pretty good. Arboreal Grazers' value in the matchup shifts a lot depending on who goes first. On the play, you should be fast enough to raise their expected turn 5 lethal, and you really don't want Grazer against this card here. On the draw, you have an extra card, and you need some extra speed, so I like keeping Grazers here. Shouldered might prevent you from casting Pour Over the Pages sometimes. Remember, she doesn't really stop your ultimatum combo, as the deterministic pile doesn't need to draw any extra cards once it begins. So if your life total allows it, firing off a Pour will often still be the best move, letting you find your ultimatum on time. It's possible to use Eugene as an extra big threat, possibly over a Pour, but he doesn't match up very well against the creature lands, which the Rakdos deck is full of. Some people use Behold the Multiverse as a way to fight through this card, but I haven't found much success with that card. Therefore, currently, I keep the sideboarding in this matchup pretty minimal. I bring Zakama as a powerful top deck, and on the play, I reduce the amount of Grazers fitting Depopulate instead, which is also a powerful card that can buy me plenty of time. Next comes Blue-White Control. Against Control, you need to beat counter magic, but you have lots of time to do it. Naturally, Lotus Field has a wealth of must counter cards, so especially game 1, you'll have enough to brute force your way through the few absorbs or vetoes they will hold up, but you need to face them carefully. Oftentimes, you want to engineer situations where you punish them for holding mana up. Playing a single card per turn just to get it countered isn't ideal. You want to build your mana, possibly copying field multiple times, and then overload them in a single big turn. Pour Over the Pages is a good first spell for trading water. It's a card that mostly needs to be countered, but if it gets countered, you get to reevaluate the situation and think if you want to continue trying to go hard this turn or stop and go off on the next. Post-board, your most powerful tool is Thought Distortion. It will fully clear the way for a combo. You have to be aware of the fact that the blue-white players know this, and they often play Narset's Reversal. If your Thought Distortion gets hit by Narset's Reversal, it will make you lose instead. Mystical Dispute and Thoughtseize, which is a little bit of an exotic choice, which I like, both let you fight back against that card and counter magic in general a little bit. Arboreal Grazer is absolutely unnecessary here. Hope Tender accelerates you more meaningfully, very meaningfully even, and post-board control decks will not have much removal to deal with it. Similarly, in a post-board game, it is sometimes correct to hardcast Vizier of Tumbling Sands, as it can grant you 3 extra mana on the battlefield, while also working as a copy of a Lotus Field for Hidden Strings purposes. Mono-white Humans has a fast clock and Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, which makes it much harder to combo with an ultimatum pile. Game 1, therefore, you will just try to be fast enough, hopefully have enough mana to overpay for your ultimatums, or use an Otawara to bounce the Thalia. After sideboarding, you can take a different approach with sweepers. Basically, we are going to assume that dropping a Eugene, the Spirit Dragon, or Zakama, Primal Calamity, is going to be good enough to win the game most of the time. Then we can board down away from the ultimatum package and eventually drop a Zakama, or just go through our entire deck with Pour Over the Pages, Leer, and grab Approach of the Second Sun from your sideboard manually. Depopulate is just one option for a sweeper. Supreme Verdict, Ritual of Suit, Languish, or Path of Peril are some of the other ones. I have tried most of them. Depopulate was just the one I ended up liking the most. Fading Hope and even Fog Effects are some of the other ways to survive the initial onslaught, but those get better if you keep Ultimatum in your deck. Keep in mind that the Ultimatums will get even worse post-board against Mono-White, given that a common card in their sideboard is Raiden, making a single Ultimatum cost an exorbitant amount of mana. Green-White Angels is a slower version of Mono-White and a very good matchup for the Lotus Field combo deck. Game 1, you'll most likely race them. After sideboarding, they will frequently have lots of hate, including Raiden, Archon of Emeria, or Deafening Silence. Once again, they have strong tools to stop specifically the Ultimatum, so I recommend the same sideboard plan as against White. Some lists are going to be playing a large amount of Dumping Spheres in the sideboard. While annoying, it should not change your approach, as against that, your plan is still to use your Bossejus. Cruel Vehicles is a medium speed aggressive mid-range deck, but unlike the white aggro decks, it does not really have a relevant disruption for the ultimatums, so I don't feel compelled to stray away from that plan. I see many Lotus players just default to sideboarding into the Zakama depopulate plan against aggro, while against Gruul specifically, I have not found that to carry much merit. Instead, I don't sideboard much at all in the matchup, only bringing in a Fading Hope over a Shimmer of Possibility. Hope Tender is vulnerable to Stomp, so I don't want it here. The hate card they might show up with is, again, Dumping Sphere. If possible, don't expose a Lotus Field in a situation where a Dumping Sphere would prevent you from accessing or channeling a Boseju, but you have to evaluate that on a game-by-game basis. Blue-Red Phoenix struggles a lot against Lotus Field. While it's a blue deck, it is not particularly good at keeping up mana, as they do need to tap out to return Phoenixes and clock you. You have a decent amount of time, but need to be aware of Temporal Trespass potentially speeding up their clock unexpectedly. Post-board, you should expect a wide variety of counter magic. Many of their counters will be soft, like Spell Pierces or Mystical Disputes, so you can play through them just by waiting a bit more when you are not in danger. You don't need the speed and blocking of Fed by Grazer here, and it's more important not to succumb to their interactions, so my advice to sideboarding is to bring Mystical Dispute, Thought Distortion and Thoughtseize over your Grazers. And last comes the mirror match. Speed is once again important, but Grazers leave the deck to make space for more interaction that can help catch you up, win on the draw, and in general is more powerful, less all-in. Mystical Dispute, Thoughtseize and Thought Distortion will take place of Arboreal Grazers. Now let's talk about mulligans. The most important thing to look for is our ability to assemble double Lotus Field. You can draw out of having mana but not having gas very easily, but mana takes time to develop, so you need it fast. Don't be afraid to mulligan down to 5 a good portion of the time. Let's go over a few example opening hands. This one is almost ideal. We've got a field and a scrying for stage, after which we can kickstart our combo with pour over the pages. We even got the Vizier, which can be used to help us combo off on turn 4 if our draw step or impulse gets us a hidden string. I would keep this hand on any amount of cards. On 6, I would put back an impulse. On 5, I would also put back a pour against faster matchups and Vizier against the grindier ones. I'd keep this hand on 7 too. While it's a bit slow, we've got an extra scry with the temple to tie things together. If I need to put back cards, Mastermind's Acquisition returns to the deck first and Dark Petition follows it second, aiming to just cast an ultimatum on turn 5. If I'm playing against a Thoughtseize deck, I would put back Botanical Sanctum before Dark Petition. This hand has no redeeming qualities on 6 or 7 cards. On 5, I might keep putting back an ultimatum on and an island, but it's close and mulling to 4 might just be better still. We've got no ways to guarantee finding Lotus Field, and even if Impulse finds us one, the hand has a few other flaws. I wouldn't want to keep it on 7, it's pretty sketchy on 6, but I would keep it on 5 cards, putting back Behold the Beyond and Dark Petition. Perfect hand. We've got enough lands, 2 scryings for field and stage, and pour to kickstart the combo. On 6, I would put back a Botanical Sanctum. On 5, pour against the faster matchups and Grazer against the grindier ones. If we don't know what we are up against, I would keep Grazer on the draw and pour on the play. Alright, that is all for today. I hope if you watched this video, you learned something about Pioneer's best combo deck. Make sure to hit the like button if you found it useful and subscribe for more content. Also, I stream most days on Twitch, so make sure to visit that if you like the guide. You can also join my Discord, where plenty of smart gamers talk about Magic daily. Stay hydrated.